Kravitz. If you have not followed his Triple H horse racing podcast, you're missing out. It's one of the best podcasts in the country.
Good evening and welcome to episode 238 of the HHH Racing Podcast. I am your proud host, Howard Kravitz. Thanks for joining us on a very special night as we're going to be talking about Oaklawn's late pick 5 on Saturday with 2 grade 3 stakes and many other topics. Let's just go ahead and jump right in. Make sure you subscribe on the bottom right-hand side of the screen. After you do that, hit that notification bell. We'd really appreciate that because that will tell you when new shows will be popping up here on the podcast. Also, hit that thumbs up, that like button. We'd really appreciate that as well, which will send people to this podcast that are interested in horse racing. You can see there on the screen my name tag, at H Kravitz, is where you can follow me on Twitter. It has grown since last weekend. Who knows why? I don't know why. And also on the bottom of the screen, email hkravitzhorse@gmail.com. I want to mention this. We've had a little bit of an issue with our listening platforms. I put in a call to someone. The last show or two has not been up on our audio platforms. So if you are an audio listener normally, you might want to go over to YouTube in the short term. I'm working on that right now. We'll get back to you, but our audio platform is not quite working right now. I'm not sure why. We're going to work on that. I'll tell you what is working, the power picks. They've been fantastic. They were great last week. We've had a few people also sign up new this week. Thank you. Look below the video player for details. I gave out my special video was absolutely on fire with an 8-1 shot. Pete and Paul gave out some great exotics. It's been fantastic. I see no reason why you shouldn't look into it, at least if you're not a subscriber. It's $4 every Saturday. That's it. $4, $16 a month. Highly recommend it. BetUS is a new sponsor with all these NCAA games going on and many things. If you are interested in sports betting, especially check out BetUS. The information's below the video player. Use Racing3H as the code when you sign up. And you can see on the screen there 125% back on your deposit if you deposit $100 or more. Deposit $100 and have $225 in your account. Why not? Racing3H. The link is below the video player, BetUS. And of course, we've got a great website started and run by my great co-host, Pete Visco, hhhracingpodcast.com. All right, we got a lot of things to talk about. Let's just jump right in. First of all, the aforementioned, let's bring him in. The creator of our great website did a wonderful job subbing in for me last week. Our co-host from the East Coast of Maryland, Pete Visco, and from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and Saratoga special writer himself, the wonderful journalist, Mr. Paul Halloran. Guys, I hear, Paul, there's a big basketball tournament going on right now. It's the Massachusetts State High School Basketball Tournament, correct?
The Massachusetts Interscholastic Athletic Association State Finals will be played over the next 3 days, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and I will be there for all 10 of them.
Wow.
Are there odds on BetUS for that, Paul? Can we put a couple wagers down?
As someone who assigns the officials, Pete, I think I should stay out of that.
Yeah, you should probably stay out of that. Doesn't mean you can't give me. Just give me a couple side tips, and I'll
I heard, Pete, there's a little bit of an NBA issue several years ago. You might want to avoid the referees getting involved in the.
That's true. We don't want to have Paul Donaghy Halloran on the show.
Guys, let's just talk about it right now. We all know the NCAA tournament's going on. I don't know what our viewership's gonna be like. I was going to change it to Wednesday, the show last night, but we had to rearrange some things. We were coming back from Vegas, etc. So if you're interested in the NCAA basketball tournament, great. Have the TV on. Just turn the sound off and go to your tablet, your iPad, and watch the HHH Racing Podcast and do both. Pete, I don't see why that should be a problem.
I got my TV on right here behind me, so I'm doing it during the show. So if I can do it and talk, they can do it and just sit and listen.
How about Princeton? Did you see Princeton?
That's awful. I had a big Sweet 16 and a big Final 8 parlay that I had put in, and I had Arizona in both of them. So those went right down the drain on the first day.
Well, it sucks if you have Arizona, but Paul, what an unbelievable story. The point guard from the team that beat UCLA with Pete Carell, I'm sure we all remember that game very well, is now the head coach at Princeton. Talk about writing a story, Paul. That is a story that just
it's unbelievable. Yeah. Hey, Pete, I had Arizona in the finals, but when things like that, games like that come up, I still have to root for the underdog, even if I have the favorite.
Of
we
course.
got Penn State, Scott. Penn State.
Penn State tonight. Let's go Lions.
Pete, you follow Penn State basketball? What do you think of them tonight?
I have them. I picked them, so I don't know if that's a good thing for all my Penn State brethren, but I picked Penn State and I bet Penn State. So Penn State, Scott, let's do it.
We got Christine Race, of course, is here. we have a lot of things to talk about, so let's just jump right in. First thing I want to do, we had a big show last night, episode 237. If you're interested in contest play, I thought it was a fascinating discussion because the last race of the NHC really was, it wasn't controversial, but there were some very shaky decisions made, I think, by some people in the top 10. That being said, as we said last night, congratulations to anyone that got to the final table. Yours truly had a fantastic weekend. We already talked about it last night. We're not going to go on. I just want to say one thing to all the viewers, listeners, anyone out there. Pete and Paul, I got tremendous support through emails, texts, Twitter. I mean, the HHH Racing podcast family came out in full force, and I just want to just sincerely thank everyone out there, especially you guys as well, who did some yeoman's work for me last week as I was preparing for the NHC. It was a great experience. I really hope you guys look into maybe qualifying, at least for that of the BCBC. The price points, as Pete, you mentioned on Twitter, don't have to be that high. And it's just a tremendous experience. Hopefully you'll be joining the BCBC crew with myself and Kyle and Drew Coatney and a bunch of other, Nick Tamro, et cetera, at some point in one of these. Is that a bucket list for you guys to maybe qualify for one of these two tournaments this year, or is that maybe in the future?
No, it's on my list to do, Howard. I just got to get around to it.
Okay.
Yeah, it like we talked about last time. It's easy enough to do. It's difficult, but it's easy enough to try. It's not easy to do, but it's easy to try. So why not?
The guaranteed good time is mainly because of Matt Miller, because that guy's a mensch. If you're a tribesman like I am, you know what that word means. I guess you don't have to be Jewish to know what that word means. But Matt was just, I mean, the meals he treated. I mean, he was fantastic.
Hey Matt, I'm not sure Matt and I might appreciate Vegas in the same way. I'm more of a Vegas underbelly kind of guy, so I'm not sure we'll be swimming in the same waters necessarily.
Well, then you got to make sure Roscoe's out there with you because he's a perfect.
Yes.
There was a lot of karaoke going on apparently Saturday night when I had to prepare for the final round. The other thing I want to talk about briefly, guys, Tapit Trice. I am the unofficial president of the Tapit Trice fan club. Obviously, Paul, you have an investment in there as well, as long as Matt Miller, Jim Pilar's bunch of people. Real quick, I know it was a few days ago now, and it's been talked about ad nauseum. Quick impressions of Tapit Trice, Paul first on Saturday.
Yeah, Kyle and I touched on this a little bit the other night, just for a few minutes. You know, I thought it was spectacular. I get it. An 88 buyer is not going to win the Kentucky Derby. I also understand the Kentucky Derby's not running March. The break is a concern. As I put on Twitter, though, Todd Pletcher has one more prep race in 8 weeks to figure it out. He's got Luis Saez, who is a very aggressive jockey, who I think will figure. You know, he doesn't have to break in the top 5 or 6. If he can break middle of the pack in the Derby, he's fine. It's a long stretch. We know he's going to be running at the end. We know that's not the profile except for last. So I understand all the people lined up to tell me why he's not going to win. And as I said on Twitter, I'm not selling my 60-1 ticket to any of them.
You know what, Pete, before I let you interject, I went back and watched every start of his. It's only been 4 or whatever, because I'm a sicko. Everyone says you know what, he doesn't break slow. He breaks with, like, when they spring the latch, he goes forward. He's just a big MFer, and it takes him a while to get going, Pete. So it's one of those weird. I think it's more physical. I don't think it's mental. Now, can that be corrected in the next 8 weeks? I don't know. But I'm not going to say he breaks slow anymore. It just takes him a while to get into stride, Pete, is the best way I can describe it.
I mean, it's just one of those where it's not ideal, though. I mean,
No,
I
it's not
understand what
ideal.
Paul's saying, but you still, if you're depending on your post, and we know the Derby, such an important, it's more than any other race, the post becomes important. So where you are, whether you get sort of break a little slow, or if you don't break slow, but you start slow, and then you just sort of get engulfed, then you just get put in a bad position, you get knocked around, and that's difficult for any horse, especially one who won't have that many starts under his belt. But the good thing is the rest of the crop is mostly pretty crap at this point. And it's not like there's anybody aside from maybe Forte and Practical Move if he can get the distance, and we'll see what Instant Coffee does. But there's nobody really separating aside from Forte. So you're going to be passing, horses that you're better than, as opposed to being, hey, maybe I'm the 5th or 6th best horse, like Mo Donegal. Mo Donegal was comparable in the sense of he's a little slow, he's a little plotter, and then he kicks in late. You're passing a lot better horses maybe last year than, or at least on paper, than maybe we're looking at the field right now. So,
and Howard, as much as he could benefit from the long stretch, he could benefit from the quarter-mile run into the first turn, because that will give him an opportunity to get underway a little bit before the turn. And remember, that race last week, that was 1 1/16. So add 3/16 on those good fractions, right, math teacher Kravitz?
Paul,
good fractions on my part.
Impressive.
Paul, the only issue would be is that he sort of looks like he could use sort of a straight path. So as long as he's able to sort of swing and maybe get a straight look in the stretch, as opposed to, he doesn't look like he's going to be a horse that's going to sort of weave through traffic.
Yeah,
he's not going to make like the Rich Strike run. He doesn't look like that kind of horse. He sort of needs to get himself going and get his.
I really hope he doesn't ultimately look like the Rich Strike kind of horse. Ultimately, yes.
I just bet that run isn't. That was a pretty athletic run, regardless.
It was a very athletic. No, he's
yeah.
got to be in the clear. But I'll tell you,
yeah.
And I don't know what he was going by last week, but I told, I think I told Howard on the phone, Pete, you'll like this. My wife, I made my wife watch the replay, only because I said I had this horse at 60-1, and she's seen enough horse racing by osmosis.
Yeah.
It is on the television around here once in a while. And her comment was, geez, it looks like he has 2 strides to everyone else's 1.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's from the mouth of Babe. So anyway, I'm not selling my ticket.
Ralph Conti, all these people that are poo-pooing, Tapit Trice, totally agree with you, Ralph. They all love to have 60-1 in this horse. The last thing I'll say, then we're going to get into the handicapping for Oaklawn, guys. It was his first time 2 turns. That's a learning experience. And it was also the first time he took dirt, because at the top of the backstretch, you notice he sort of lost ground, and Sia's got him to the outside. There was a horse in front of him that I think was sort of backing up into him, it looked like, and he has sort of take back and go. There's a great learning lesson. I think for me, guys, he's going to the bluegrass. I need to see a forward move, though. If he runs another 88-90, I don't know. I need to see a forward move. The extra distance is going to help. I want an outside post in the Derby, Paul. I don't even care if he's 20. I don't care. I want an outside post in the Derby. Just give me a clear run. And his stride is just, wow. I mean, he is going to be flying in the lane. I'm almost guaranteed of that. The question is he good enough, and a lot of other things. We'll see. But Paul, when you make a bet like this in January, you just want the horse to get into the field, and he's into the field. God forbid any injury or whatever. Tapit Trice is in the Derby, so we're very excited about that. Another thing we're excited about is Oaklawn's Pick 5, guys. So let's jump right in. It's a very interesting sequence. I know we all love the last race. We can't talk about the last race, I'm sure. But let's go. Before we talk about the last race, guys, let's talk about the first race. The late Pick 5 starts at 3:18 Central Time, so about 4:18 Eastern Standard Time. Starts with a maiden 40, 3-year-old fillies. Of course, everything's on the dirt, 6 furlongs. It's a field of 9. The morning line favorite is the number 8, Collected Glory, for Contreras and Francisco Arrieta. And as I bring up the banners here, guys, we are quite different in this first race. I'll bring it up right there. You see it's now scrolling on the bottom of the screen. Let me take off this other banner here real quick. So, it already went off. I'm sorry. We're good. Let's go to Pete first. Peter going with the 9, True Emotion, Anderson, and Kylie Jordan from the outside.
Yeah, I really disliked this race. I when I looked at it, as I went through the first time, I didn't really nothing jumped out at me where I was like, oh, this is the one. This is the one that I really like on top. I landed on this one, if for no other reason than I thought the last race wasn't as bad as it looked on paper. Was sort of broke really poorly, was too far back, came home best, and was in the race with Collected Glory and Jumpin' Judy. Came home best, so I'm figuring with a new trainer who unfortunately is 1 for 26 at the meet, so I'm not sure that how helpful that's going to be, but at least it's a second start with the new trainer. Maybe this one can get a little bit of a better trip, and I think if it can still find that come home the same way, then I think it has a shot to maybe turn the tables on those other two. Although I do have a Doug Anderson, 1 for 17, second after the claim, 1 for 26 at the meet, like I mentioned. So a lot of things are going against it. But in a race, I like McCracken. That's my horse. I used to love that horse. So I figure, what the hell? I'll stick with the 9 in a field where I don't really love anybody.
Well, the 3 horses we talked about are the 1, 2, and 6. The 6 is Jumpin' Judy here. The 2 is getting a very good trip. The 1 is broke slow. I don't like anything that I see out of this race, guys. I'm just going to sort of, you see Jumpin' Judy just literally jumps to his left. This is just ugly here, right, guys? And here's the 2 who's, I guess, making up some ground. Here's the 1 maybe making up some ground. I think is that your horse?
Yeah, the 1 was the one.
The one broke slow and did make up some ground. So I like the 1, in terms of, making up some ground on the 2 and almost being the 6. Just overall, Pete, I just thought that was a real ugly race. It
was awful. It was awful, which even though my top 3 are the 3 horses from that race, but that's more, I didn't love anyone else. And we'll get to your guys' horses in a minute, and we'll see who you came up with, and we can talk through them.
Sure. You've got, I think we just pretty much touched on, we saw the 3 horses run. They've all got a shot, Pete. There's no doubt about it. I don't blame you for going with them. They're I won't say obvious, but the ones that have recency, that have run, decent. They could win for sure if no one steps up. Paul, you're going one of those fresh faces. I've got this horse 3rd. I got to be honest. Well, I'll give my strong opinions after you're done, but we have to see the board. Fortunately, we do get to see the board to start this pick 5. You're going to go with a Cassie Santana 8-1, a Union Rags filly out of Giants Causeway, which you think maybe she'd want longer, but in this race, who the hell knows?
Well, interesting Norm Cassie stats here. I put on. I'm channeling my inner Pete Visco here.
All right, what you got?
So Norm Cassie, first time starter on dirt sprint, maiden claiming. Forget maiden claiming. Dirt sprint, 3 for 28. Not good, right? Now you put in Ricardo Santana, and he's 3 for 7. So all 3 wins are with Santana. Mm-hmm. Now you make it a maiden claiming, first time starter on dirt sprints and maiden claiming. He goes 13 for 82, I believe.
Okay.
But, which is not great. That's about 18%, Mr. Math Teacher, I think, something around there.
Yeah.
But now put Santana into that variable, and he's 33%. So I like Union Rags as a sire. I think this race is begging for a first-time starter to win. I think that he has the best chance. You look at the stats with Cassie and Santana at this meet, 59%, 36% for the year. So at 8-1, and I'd love to see him actually be a little lower, because that'll tell me that there might be another idiot who likes him other than me. I'm going to take a shot with this horse in a race that, as you guys said, if you look at the ones that have run, the morning line favorite is 0 for 8 with, he's always a bridesmaid type of horse. So I think this horse has a pretty good chance at a pretty good price.
Hey, Paul, it's funny. This horse literally was my last cut on the ticket to get under 100. And the one I did like too, the Cassie has won his last 2 first-time starters at Oaklawn. Both have Santana, and they both won. So he's on a 2-race first-time starter winning streak at Oaklawn, and both were with Santana. I was pissed that I actually had to cut the horse. I probably wouldn't cut the horse, so I'd be with both of you having the 7 on my ticket for sure, in off the board, I guess.
That's my play.
Paul, should we just let you off the show so you can have these barbecue conversation on the side, or do you want to handicap some races? What the hell? I'm
Well,
just kidding. I'm just kidding. I cannot wait for that barbecue. I'm very excited about it. Guys, I don't want any piece. I'm gonna beat me back on. I don't want any horses coming out of that race we saw. I mean, I'm gonna use them as C's, Pete, because they absolutely could win. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me, but I didn't like that watching that replay at all. Plus Power is my sort of wacko horse here. Now, I know that running line is impressive with a 29, beaten 9 by 14, but there's two things I like about this. A few things, actually. First of all, Cassie's better second out, number one. Number two, the horse does have some breeding, and he's by Accelerate out of a Grand Slam mare, so there is a little bit of breeding. He's one of the few drop downs in this race, guys. He wasn't. I mean, that field was not easy. It was, especially for a maiden 50. And I just want a fresh face. Now, when you watch this race, I mean, he finishes last. You're like, Howard, why are you showing this? Well, because this is the most ridiculous start I've ever seen. He's the 4. And I mean, talk about dwelt. I mean, this is more than dwelt. Let's see if they spring the latch. There we go. I mean, wow. I mean, ridiculous. He's way back. I mean, he didn't really make that much of a run. I'm going to admit that, but let me just show something to the stretch. If people want to make fun of this, that's fine. He's nowhere to be found, right? I mean, he's way the hell back, but he was running at the end, and I know he finished, 9 by 14, but it's not. But he was like, you see him right here. Like, again, and people, I don't think you should poo-poo this. I think this is something that catches my eye because he was running at the end. He was sort of blocked. I mean, I don't know what he would have finished. You see right there, he's like running over horses with run. So again, he's got to break a million times better. He's got to be better, obviously. But you know what, guys? I'm looking for someone fresh here, and I'm going with this horse. I think he's fascinating. Let me throw you some stats, okay, on some other horses. The number 5, Pink Ace, who I have second. McPeak is not as bad as you think. First-time starters.
Yes, he is.
Hold on a second. Hold on. First-time starters. Sprinting in a maiden claiming. He's 8%. That's not very good, but it's not like horrific. 25% in the money.
In the money. So, he hits the board. Yes.
He hits the board, and he's got the leading rider riding for him. Doesn't that? I don't know. That's weird to me. He's also got pretty good workouts. I mean, look at these workouts compared to the field guys. He's got good workouts, a 48 breezing, a 47 breezing. Now, he only costs $5,000, guys. So you can say, well, if he's that good, why wouldn't they put him in main special? Guys, it only costs $5,000. So yeah, a 40 main claimer makes sense to me. I don't know. It's a
Howard, I agree with that. 1 for 53. I had him first-time starters overall, but 16 for 53 in the money.
Yeah, I mean, he gets in the money. If he's going to be 2 for whatever, I think this could be the spot. Now, he is 7-2 more in line, though, guys. So you're not really getting the. I don't know. Watch the board.
Sort of confused me a bit on that one. That was because I thought. I mean, I could see. I assume the workouts were probably the driver on that morning line because I had a 9 for 14 maiden claiming, but I did. Yeah, the one on your 4, Howard. Because I actually had that horse as a potential like C at least. Cassie was 1 for 26 second-time starters on dirt in maiden claimings. If anybody cares about
interesting.
That. And then, but I honestly, every horse in this race has bad stats against them. So there's this isn't really a statistical. This is a statistical anomaly where there's almost no good statistics from a trainer standpoint or a sire standpoint in some cases. So this is a pretty bad one all the way around. So somebody's going to buck a trend one way or the other, I think.
Last thing, we're going to move on, guys. Sorry, Paul. The number 1 with Asmussen, Asmussen is with this jockey with Castillo. He's 16% on the win end, 49% in the money. But with this jockey with firsters, he's 0 for 7.
Yep,
which is so. In other words, Asmussen doesn't use this jockey on his best firsters. Maiden claimers first time out. 22% win, 52% in the money. So it's weird, Pete, because Asmussen is good in this category, but not with this jockey. What does that mean? I have no freaking idea.
I also had.
Go ahead. I stepped out.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say on the one, I had Asmussen at 2 for 42 first-time starters at Oaklawn, though. So maybe he does it for some reason.
Yeah, it's weird.
That's a big number. And then the Mucho Macho Man, 4 for 80 with 3-year-old and up first-time starters. And the Dam was 2 for 21 in dirt sprint. So there was just, again, there's negative stats for all these horses. Because, with the younger ones, you lean on the statistics a lot more. And these were mostly negative. Sorry, Paul. Go ahead.
No, Howard, I was going to say, I think maybe the most important thing on the PPs with the horse you like, Mark Cassie worked him from the gate in his last work. And when a horse breaks like that, you pretty much have to do that, because there's no guarantee he's going to figure it out, especially as a brand new maiden. So, some people look at gate works as a negative, but in this case, breaking like that, I think you almost have to put him in the gate and try to, get him out better. So I thought that
brings up a great comment. Maybe just skip this race and play the, pick 4. The problem is the last race is pretty much the same as this one. So maybe it's me a pick 3. Anyway, we'll see. It's watch the board and make your decisions. Let's move on to the next race, guys. The next race the next 3 races are very solid. So maybe the pick 3 is the play for a lot of people here. It is, sorry, didn't take us off screen here. Allowance optional 62.5, a mile and a 16th, 2 turns, pretty small field. I think it's a pretty straightforward race, at least in my opinion. I'll go ahead and switch the banners right now. There we go. Morning favorite is the number 4, Frosted Grace, Diodoro, and Torres. Paul, we'll let you go first. You are going to go with Frosted Grace on top.
Yeah, you know what? I kind of wanted to make a case for Ain't Life Grand, the Iowa bred, who they took a huge swing in the Travers. But you know what? I just can't get off of. He's only run outside Iowa twice and beaten badly both times. And, this isn't the Travers field but, he ran a listed stakes at Oaklawn last year. This horse just looks like, he is in very good form. The Churchill race last year in November was in the slop. So you take that out and he's got 4 really good races in a row. I think his buyer is good buyer is right in the 90 range, which I think fits this race. I thought the last effort was a winning effort to a horse, Caddo River, who was on the Derby Trail at one point. I know he's kind of a polarizing horse, but certainly he'd be 1 to something in this race, I think. So I just think in leading jockey, Diodoro, I think I'm going to eat some chalk in this race and take the 4, Howard.
Pete, you're going with the 1. I'm going with the 1 also. Paul's got the 1 second. Very logical. Kapuna, who's actually won his last 2 very well, Pete, on the slop. The weather's going to be absolutely fine, thank goodness, for once at Oaklawn on Saturday. What I like about him is I don't think he has to be on the lead. I think he was almost on the lead by default last time, Pete. I think he's going to sit off and just sit an unbelievable trip. And he's in real good form also.
Yeah, that was exactly my thinking was I thought that this sort of inherited the lead and had an easy lead in both of those races eventually. So why not do it if you're better than the other horses, or at least if your jockeys think you're better than the other horses? Obviously ran a nice second last year to Cyberknife. That was a long time ago, but I did like that this horse ran in March in the Louisiana Derby, ran pretty poorly, but was in the mix. So, wasn't getting run over early and then just really faded, but then also was off for a while. So who knows if he came out of that with something wrong as well. Came back with a nice third off a really broke badly, was sprinting and still made up some really nice ground against a horse that wound up winning the race by 3 1/4, who got away. And then you come up with those next 2 wins with buyer increases. So I just really think this one's in form. I was chalking this one up down to the 1 and 4. As we see on my pick 5, I wind up singling this horse because I didn't want to play the 2 chalks. But I figure it's most likely one of those 2 because they're both in such good form at this point.
I think that's a good single, Pete. We'll talk about it at the end of the show. I almost did the same, actually. I've got Ain't Life Grand in second, Pete, Paul and Pete. This is a very talented horse. I actually tipped him out and bet him in the Iowa Derby at 12 to 1. He was actually one of our power pick plays that week. So I've sort of a soft spot in my heart for this horse. I have no idea what he's going to do coming back. Von Hemmels is okay off the layoff. But what I do like, guys, is I don't think this field is, has a bunch of like great stakes horses at number one. And number two, I love the fact that they got Gonzalez on this horse. So they've got the horse, the jockey that's been on him stays on him. Is this a prep for something like at Prairie Meadows later? Perhaps, but I think he's very talented. He's got more upside than anyone in this field, at least in my opinion. I see no reason why he can't win this race if he's ready. But I do think the one is the horse to beat, and it's going to be 1, 4, 6. I don't think we have too much else to add. Paul, do you want to say anything quickly about the two you've got in third?
No, I think he's more of a board selection for me, Howard. On my ticket, I'm going to try to get by with 1, 4. I do want to say something. You mentioned, though, the Louisiana Derby. I would like to give a plug to our guy, Raylu, a former guest on the HHH podcast. And maybe, Howard, we need to have him on because Fairgrounds closes March 26th, and he is a 12-win lead in the jockey standings. He is on the verge of his first jockey title, which will be huge. It couldn't happen to a better guy, and maybe we need to revisit him to clearly that put him on the right path, being on the HHH Racing Podcast Breeders' Cup Week in 2021.
I think I have some contact info. Paul, I'll talk to you off air, and we'll see.
Okay.
Where is he going after Fairgrounds?
That's why we have to have him on and find out.
I would love to see him now that he's more established get a chance at Saratoga. I know or Belmont.
Well, he'll go
Belmont
to Keeneland.
First.
He'll go to Keeneland, I think.
Well, okay.
Yeah, and then after that, probably Churchill, probably Keeneland, Churchill.
Yeah,
let's find out. Anyway, I just wanted to mention that I'd love to see him win the title, and he's in position to do it.
He's doing great, and he's a great guy. Let's go on to the next race, guys. The next race, we got 2 grade stakes to look at. This is the Grade 3 Whitmore, of course, named after the wonderful sprinter Whitmore. 6 furlongs. The purse is $200,000. Real nice purse. You got a field of 9 here with the morning line favorites. The number 2, Tejano Twist, a closer for Hartman and Arietta. And as I go ahead and switch to the banners here, you're going to see there's a horse in this race, guys, that I'm going to go full screen here. I thought I was getting a little cute, and I'm like, ooh, I'm going to surprise Pete and Paul with a horse, but no. There's a horse that I love, that all you guys love, and it's major tip of the cap to Pete and Paul, not because you guys are thinking alike with me, just because you're searching out for interesting prices. I love that. And before we get to the number 10, well, let's talk about the number 10, Morel. You have the number 10, Morello.
No, you're on the wrong.
What did I do?
You have the wrong banner on the bottom.
What did I do? My bad.
Sorry,
I'm my bad. You're right.
You
Well, Paul, you like Morello. I'm sorry. I screwed that up. That's okay. I like the fact that you like Morello, Paul. Before we talk about Morello, let's go to Pete then. Pete, there's a bunch of horses that are in this race that are coming out of really nice allowance wins or races, and we've talked about a bunch of them. And one of those horses is the one that you're going with, which is the number 1 Spankster, who is 8-1, I believe, morning line.
Yeah, I actually had that horse last time, so I have a small affinity for this one as well. But in all honesty, the methodology I used in this race was I wound up just tossing all the speed. If you follow time form, there's 1, 2, 3, 6, 7 horses with 100+ time form early pace. 3 of them over 120, 1 over 130. So on paper, which we know sometimes backfires, there's a ton of speed in this race. So I felt like you either have to like the speed and say they're going to hold and pick maybe the best of the speed, or you say, screw it, I think the speed's going to kill each other, and I'm going to go with the closers. So that's what I wound up doing. I went with 3 closers, and I went with this one because I think it was sort of a coin flip between the 1 and the 2 for me. I really like Tejano Twist as well, but I went with this one. I like the price. Lucas, I don't usually love in graded stakes, even at lower level graded stakes, but he's much better at Oaklawn in graded stakes, so that was okay with me. I like the closing kick. And then I just think that on fast dirt, his buyers have been steadily improving. The last one was a sloppy track. He won the race. Buyer came back a little slow, but he won it in a decently impressive manner, impressive enough. But I do like the fast dirt progression that he's been on. So I think if he can take another step forward here, again, it's not the greatest field in the world. If the speed melts down, hopefully he can get a good trip and close and take it down at a decent price.
Yeah, I loved him last time. He was a stone cold A to start a pick 5 sequence for us, and I have this horse on top. I personally feel Tejano Twist is maybe a little better horse, but Spangster.
I thought Tejano Twist might be a little further back, so I thought maybe the one would get the jump. But that's why I sort of like the two of them. But I thought maybe Spangster can get a little bit of a jump because he's a touch more tactical than Tejano Twist is.
Now, Paul, my friend Paul, good for you, buddy, because good old Morello. You know, I looked at this horse, and to me, and I'm gonna let you speak for yourself, Paul. To me, this is a total in Steve Asmussen I trust. And the reason I say that, if he thinks this horse is a sprinter, Paul, I'm going to give this horse another chance. Last time, he didn't break well. It was a ridiculously slow pace. It was just a sprint to the end. I'm tossing that out completely. Paul, this is the first time, and I'm going to go full screen. This is the first time in this horse's career, he's going to have a fast pace to run into, Paul. That's almost guaranteed. And if Steve Asmussen thinks he's a closing sprinter, I'm going to go with it. We're getting a monster price. I almost put it on top. You've got him second along with I. Is there anything I didn't cover? What kind of trip can he get? Do you think he's good enough to win? I think he might be good enough to win.
Well, I agree with everything you said. You know, let's go back, and we're going to go back a year now. But this horse is undefeated going into the Wood Memorial, where he goes off the favorite, hit the gate, never had a chance to run. If he wins that race, he's one of the top 3 choices in the Kentucky Derby. Okay. Now, it didn't materialize. I get it. Okay. Then they cut him back to the Woody Stevens. But I mean, that, you know, you and I were there. Howard, you know, Pegasus himself may not have beaten Jack Christopher that day. Okay. They get an optional claiming win out of him. Again, didn't run great in the Kelso. So, I mean, it's far from a slam dunk, but he's 15-1. You're not expecting a slam dunk. And to add to everything, Howard, you pick up Pratt at a monster price. And as far as race flow, the reason I picked the 2 was just what Pete talked about, my friend, the astute Pete Visco. There's so much speed.
Yeah.
I think the race sets up perfectly for the 2. So maybe it also sets up for the 10 closing like a truck.
This is my back wheel play of the entire sequence, because I think he's got a huge shot to, if not win, like clunk up from the clouds for second or third. I mean, we're not getting 15-1 just because of Pratt, Paul. I think we're getting like 10-1-ish. But on paper, Pete, he looks slow. He looks a bit implausible. When you deep dive, though, his 6 furlong races are good. And if he breaks slow, Pete, weirdly enough, that might actually work to his advantage, because, as you so astutely pointed out, there's so much speed. Maybe you want to be far back in this race.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I had him as sort of a C. I had him like you did, maybe as more of an underneath with a potential chance to win, but not necessarily an A. But mine was more, you just have to see it. He hasn't shown the ability to, you know, he hasn't won a race in a little bit, and he hasn't won a race with other decent horses in it in a little bit. So to me, that was the only sort of negative, but I do like the Pratt pickup. But yeah, I agree with you that he doesn't have to break great in here if the speed duel that we're hoping for materializes. Now, there's a bunch of horses in here that have no other way to win than to be on the lead. So you have to hope that that's going to happen.
One horse I just want to mention, I don't know how you guys felt, but we do need to move on after my comment. Edge to Edge, I could not be more against. If he wires the field, God bless him. This is Pete. We've talked about this a lot in this show as a great learning experience for handicappers. Blue numbers, Pete. This horse has never gotten a high buyer into a fast pace. Now, he ran real well 3 back in the mud with a fast pace and ran 87. This pace is going to be even faster and is better horses. I do not like Edge to Edge at all. Final thoughts from either one of you on this horse?
I agree. I mean, I don't dislike the horse. I just think it's a tough spot.
No, I love the horse.
I like the horse. Yeah, I don't like the spot because there's no way you're getting those slow fractions. Because again, we didn't talk about Cogburn, but Cogburn is a horse that needs the lead. Pirate Rick needs the lead. There's just so many need the lead horses that unless they just let one go, like we've seen races do, then I can't imagine that horse getting that comfortable trip like he's had in the past too.
Stephen Vanderbrook, thanks for joining the show. Said some nice things about Raylu. His family's wonderful, great people. I have nothing negative to say about Raylu. Love him. Michael Olsen thinks we're getting 6-1. I'm assuming that's on Morello. I think it's going to be higher. I think it might be higher, but we'll see.
I think so, Howard. I think we get about 8 to 10 maybe.
Yeah, we got Gemini. Gemini, thanks. We haven't seen you in a while. Thanks for joining the show. Here's what we're going to do, Pete and Paul, because Paul's got 10 minutes. We're going to handicap the next race, which is a stake. Paul, then I'm going to quickly show your pick 5. And
I don't have to talk about the Arkansas breds.
I didn't think you'd actually want to talk about that race, frankly. So
I've never been so happy to leave something early.
We'll handicap. I think more people are interested in the stake race anyway. So we'll let you go, Paul, after we talk about this race. I'll show you your pick 5, and then Pete will go back to the last race. That's what we'll do. So the next race, this is the penultimate leg of the pick 5, is a real nice race. It's the Essex Grade 3. These are older males. How about $500,000 going a route, mile and 16th? You see the field here of 10 with the morning line favorite on the outside, the number 10, Last Samurai. And that's the horse that a lot of us like here, as I screwed up there before there. Pete and Paul, you're both going with Last Samurai. I've got this horse second. He just makes a lot of sense in this field. Paul, I'll let you go first here.
Yeah, you know what, Howard? I think he's in the right spot. He's got Torres. I thought the last race was really good. I thought he was, I know he's 8-1, but if you watch the last race, certainly down the backstretch, you're not thinking that he's necessarily going to be a winner. He puts up a career best buyer. I guess that could be a concern, but the coach gives him 2 workouts off of that. I like that. So if that takes the edge off a little bit, hopefully there's no bounce involved. But if he bounces down to 100, Howard, I think he's still right in the mix. So I just think this horse has a lot going for him.
And that fourth and the Pegasus has come back pretty good. Defunded ran well after that.
Stiletto Boy won. So good point, Pete.
Now he's really good. He's a bit grindy, but I think this race will suit him just fine. This is a mile and 16th. Is that what this is? I'm drawing a blank now.
It is.
This is a mile.
It is. Yes.
Might be a little short for him. I will say that, but I've got him in second. I mean, he's very logical. Actually, that's a stupid comment. He just ran a 105. So scratch that comment there with the shorter distance. He absolutely fits. I got nothing negative to say about this horse at all. Paul, you're going with the 8. Hold on, I gotta see. You're going with the 8 second, who none of us. So I've gotten third. This horse has to be better this time, right, Paul? I mean, he's got to be better.
Yeah, that's how that's. You don't want to try to make a living thinking like that, but you took the word when I was looking at the race. Except I thought he had to be better in the mine shaft than the PA Derby, which I saw. Although, again, you weren't coming from 7th or 9th in the PA Derby. So that you could throw that out. Anyone who was that far behind that day, forget about it. This horse was a pretty good 3-year-old last year. Not the top of the crop. But tangled with Epicenter a few times. Tabor Zandon in that PA Derby, Cyberknife. I think that mine shaft field is better than this field. I think Classic Causeway, we talked about him last week, Pete, when we thought he was on dirt last week and we thought it was the wrong surface. So I'm going to stick with the story that it's the wrong surface this week since it's still on dirt. I'm looking for a price if I'm using the favorite, Howard. And I think this horse, it's Cox at a big number. Yeah, I'm going to try to get this horse on the board. I am.
Yeah, I think he'll be much better second out. That's just my thought. And Cox, now there is a race, guys, at Fairgrounds next week, the New Orleans Classic, I think it's called, which is
New Orleans Handicap.
Okay, which is also pretty. I don't know if it's 500,000, but I find it interesting that Tawny Porter's been working at Fairgrounds, goes to Oaklawn. Pete, I don't know if what that may or may not mean. I don't know if that's good or bad, but I just find it interesting.
No, I didn't look either to see if maybe Cox is sending someone else there and wanted to split them up. So I didn't look, but it could be. But I'm with you guys on Tony Port. I had this one as an A. I have him as an A. He's just not in my top 3, but he's on my ticket when we get to it. So I figured maybe he can recapture some old form when in
an A. I like it, Pete.
Yeah.
Wow, Pete, I didn't know what to do with Forza Dior.
No,
you guys know I loved him last time.
You love this horse, yeah.
I loved him last time, but like he should have gotten the job done. I don't like.
Oh, Howard, I was on him last time.
I know. I think there's more speed. I think there's more speed in this race than there was in the last race. I'm going to use him, but very defensively. I don't know, Pete. I don't know what to do with him.
I didn't want to get beat by him, which is, I hate picking a horse for that reason, especially when it's 7-2. But it's not like you're throwing a horse out that isn't good. And he didn't run 2 bad races. And I agree with Paul that I think Happy American and Mr. Wireless are as good or better than the horses in this field potentially anyway. So he's a horse if he beats you, and I think he might be better if he sits off just a touch and there is some speed in here. And maybe if he sits in like the 2-3 hole instead, but I don't have a ton of confidence, but I didn't want to lose because of him either.
The other thing is, to me, he needs like a long stretch. He's a very grindy, like doesn't have acceleration. I'm not saying Oaklawn has tight turns, but I don't feel like he suits the track. I don't know why I feel that way. Just, I don't know what to make of it. Let's talk about my top choice. And Pete, I know what you're probably going to say, and you are exactly right. Because I'm going to say it, and then you're going to say what you're going to say. I'm going to say you are right. This might be a complete sucker horse. Okay, this might be the worst 3-1, or he could be good. The line that I want to say is we do want to see it again, right? I mean, this is exactly the let's see it again kind of horse. But Pete, he ran so well against Charger last time. And it's Mott. He's in good hands. Second time, maybe he's just turned the corner. But if he doesn't run well, that wouldn't shock me either. I get it, people that are against him, but he's a fresh face. Maybe he's just getting better. That Charger race was not a fluke. I mean, he ran really well in that race. And Pete, I think he's going to get a great trip. But I understand why you're against him. I really do.
No, he's a hard look but it always scares you when a horse takes a jump. But then it was also off a 10-month layoff, so he could just be better now. I mean, we just don't know how much he's improved. And plus, the race was good against Charger. Charger did come back a little disappointing after that. And then also what was behind Vittorio in that field was pretty weak. So it was just hard weighing all that. But I'm with you. If he runs that same race, then he's maybe the best horse in the field. So it was a tough one. 3-1 was a little hard to swallow on a lot of maybes, though.
Yeah, no question. I'm going to use him as an A. I think he has a big shot to win, but this is a different circumstance. Paul, I know we got to let you go because you've got a meeting with some work. So real quick, Paul, take as much time as you have or want. You have a $96 ticket. Don't go anywhere, folks. Pete and I are going to come back and handicap the last race, go over our pick 5. He's bringing on Jim Miller. We've got plenty left in the show, but Paul's got to go. Real quick, Paul, with your ticket here.
Yeah, well, I wanted to be as thorough as I could at the beginning and end, so I'm 4 deep in the first leg. My picks were 7, 8, 5. I thought the 5 was more of a board horse, though. I don't want McPeak with those numbers on the win end, so I did not use them in the pick 5. I think I'm going to try to get by with the 2 we talked about, Howard, in the 7th. The 8th race is interesting. I ended up 4 deep here. I did use edge to edge defensively. I used Flash of Mischief, so I used the 2 speeds. I didn't use Morella, which I'm going to change after Howard gave me the vote of confidence.
Yeah, why not?
In the 9th, I went with, again, the 10 in the 2. I'll be using the 8, though, on my ABC grid. And in the fantastic Arkansas bred race, I went with Izzy Castillo as the 4. I went with the 12-1 shot gold strategy because why wouldn't an 11-1, 0 for 11 horse win a race like this? And I thought the 11 with Cabrero and Tom Vance was logical.
Hey, Paul, I have my top 3 in the last race are 4, 8, 11. So
right, Pete, you and I, who's better at Arkansas breds than
nobody?
Everybody.
Everybody.
Paul, thanks a lot, buddy. We appreciate it. Again, great job last week with Kyle as well on Bettin and Boozin. That was fun, and we'll see you down the road. And good luck with all the basketball refereeing this weekend.
Okay, thanks,
Take
guys.
care,
See you,
Paul.
Paul.
Bye. All right, so Pete, let's take Mr. Halloran's wonderful pick 5 off the screen. We were just talking about Vittorio, ladies and gentlemen. Anything else you wanted to close with? It's interesting because he was a decent horse in the West Coast, but not obviously has done something with this horse. The breeding is really good though. Ghost Zapper out of a Smart Strike mare. So Stone Street, Pete, he's just got all the lookings of a horse that could be really good, but we probably do need to see it again before we anoint this horse as the next coming, right?
I mean, I had him as a B, but it was a tough decision. But I mean, again, I don't think there's nobody that stands out 100%. I mean, the best horse looks like Last Samurai, but he's also coming out of the 10. He ran his best race last out, and is he going to get a similar trip? I don't know. So I think it's just a tough race. I do like a couple others. I actually went with Classic Causeway in my top 5 because of if one of these horses gets on the lead and winds up holding on, I'll see if we can get a price in one of those. But yeah, I think it's a wide open race. Yeah.
I should have mentioned Clay, who scratched out of the race last week to run here. I don't like him at all. I think he could be a great dirt sprinter. His campaign is just weird as hell.
It's weird.
I don't know. There's other speed in the race. I'm against Classic Causeway, but he's a big price, at least in the morning line. Nick Fellon mentioned Rated R Superstar in the chat. Let me bring up that. Where is Tom Espinoza. Tom, I don't know how you feel. I love this horse is awesome, Pete. I love this horse. I think his best days are way behind him. I think he's
defending champ too.
He's finally regressed. I don't like Rated R Superstar at all in this spot, but he's a very likable horse. Vale Place thought we were starting at 9 p.m., but also wishes me congrats. Thank you, Vale Place. I really appreciate it.
Honestly, real quick on Rated R, because he's got that weird where the Villafrancos sort of change him back and forth. He runs better under Federico, and now he's under Martin. And honestly, that was why I sort of moved him down, because I thought if he was his form under Federico, I thought had a shot. But when he's under Martin or Martine, I don't know how you pronounce it, then he doesn't run as well. So that was actually why I moved him down.
Listen, you're very astute. I didn't even consider that, Pete, but I suppose. Let's go on the last race. And the last race, I don't mind Arkansas.
I like this race.
I don't mind Arkansas breds. I mean, the last time we had a race at Oaklawn where there was Arkansas breds, I had a very strong horse I liked, and he ended up winning at 5-2. I can't remember the name now, but I don't have the feeling at all in this race. But there is a horse that we both do like. You see our picks there on the screen. We're both going somehow, Pete, with the same horse, because I'm sure we watched the replay and hey, we're smart guys, right? We're both going with the number 4. Hey there, Joe G girl, I guess. I don't know. Prather and Castillo. You want to talk about a trip. I mean, this horse, wow. How much trouble can one horse get into? Let me just show the whole field here. It's a huge field of 12 with also eligibles. Let's just go right to the replay of this horse, Pete. He's our top choice, 4-1. There is 3-1 morning line. 3-1.
I was hoping he would sneak by at a better price, but when I saw the morning line, I was like, oh crap! I guess everybody else watched obviously the same replays we did.
1, 4, and 11. Go ahead, Pete. Quickly, we'll just show the pieces of the race that are important. He's the 4.
Yeah, I mean you can't miss it off the break. It was similar to, I think, whatever that horse was, the 4 you maybe showed earlier. You see that? Look at that. I mean, almost like stood up at one point and is just unbelievably behind. But the one thing I did like, wait till they cut to see how, again, he has some speed. So he wasn't just, hey, or she, I should say, apologies, that's a drink. She broke terrible, but sort of rushed up a bit, which you don't necessarily love, because maybe that sometimes takes a little starch out. But I like the way she's moving, and if she would have broke better and moved like this.
She got steady there. This wasn't even the beginning of the trouble.
Yep.
Go ahead, Pete. Sorry.
No. You pointed out perfectly. And then the thing I don't like, not from her perspective, is look at those 3 on top, how far they're getting away. I mean, there's a 5, 6, 7 length difference between the 4th place horse and maybe the next pack. So it was going to be hard to catch those horses anyway, but actually, You see her sort of.
And then she's got like veer to the end. I mean, she's
She
on the
veers.
wrong lead now. I mean,
She's green too. Yeah, yeah,
Jesus.
yeah.
But she's got a little talent, I think. I think
I
she's
mean,
got some talent.
if she runs straight, she's look at her. She's moving. I mean,
yeah, on the wrong lead, but moving.
But again,
this horse, by the way, these horses are in the race.
Yes,
these two,
yeah.
All these 3 horses are in the race. And Pete, I mean, it doesn't take a brain surgeon to realize that the 4 is definitely the one you want coming out of there. Yeah. We're gonna cut this a little bit short, Pete, because we got Jim Miller coming. I don't really think there's much to talk about in this race. There's a lot of first-time starters. There's horses that are run that I just have personally like no real interest in. I think the 9's a bit interesting. Who do you got second? You
well,
got
it's funny.
8.
So the 8
you got the 8 second we just saw, right?
The 8, no. But the 8's one of those that I would hate because it's 0 for 11. The thing I do
Chris. It is midnight taxes from the last time.
That is one, yes.
Yeah.
This horse, the one thing I do like is came back off a long layoff from April to December, ran a decent third off, was sitting up close to the pace, but then 2 back, lost to the next out winner, came back and won with a 66 buyer, which would bury this field. And then the second place horse came back with a 53. And then in the last race, there was a runaway winner who this horse wasn't beating. So I think at 12-1, this one, at least I don't mind a horse as much. At least she's always there. So yeah. And I do think eventually they get one. And hopefully they get one in a race. I mean, it's a race with a bunch of junk in it. So you get one when you're double-digit odds, hopefully. And if you can catch it that one time, then you're happy.
I mean, if she's going to get one, this is the race to get one. I don't disagree with you, Pia. It's just, to me, it's the 4, just about anyone. I don't.
Yeah.
It's just, you can hit if someone wants to hit the L button, I don't have a problem with it. And I almost never hit the L button. Pete, let's go over our pick 5s. I'm going to bring on Jim Miller from Hawthorne to talk about a few things. Your ticket 6, 8, 9 with 1, with 1, 2, 7. With 1, 5, 7, 8, 10, with 3, 4, 8, 11, $90.
Yeah, the first leg is actually the one where I'm the least confident, even though I wound up only going 3 deep, but I actually was originally 5 deep, so I'm not super confident in that one. Second leg, I like the 2 chalks, 5-2 and 2-1, so I decided to single the one I like better just to sort of not balloon up the ticket with 2 low-priced favorites. Third leg, the third leg was the one where I said I'm going to take all the closers and throw out the speed and hope the speed duel erupts like we think it might. And then in the fourth leg, I'm wide open, got a couple prices, got speed, got closers, have mid-pack, have a little bit of everything. And then that last leg, I have the 2 that we talked about. And then I threw in the 3, if I'm remembering. Yeah, the 3 was the pure speed, has never been able to hold on or even be close to holding on. But that was one of the horses I put in. 118 time form early pace. The next one is a 95. So that's just one that, hey, maybe can catch fire once. And I think they added blinkers. So maybe this one just goes crazy and just runs away. And at a 12-1 shot, I'll take the best speed by far in a race. Where I don't like everything.
If you haven't been paying attention to Pete's horizontal tickets, you really need to, ladies and gentlemen, because Pete has been fantastic in general with his horizontals. So I'm like doing 5 things, including making sure my biggest play of the day today at NCAA on the side, money wise, outside of the bracket, was Auburn over Iowa, and it looks like I'm in pretty good shape there. And Charlie Freeman, if you happen to watch the show or you're listening live, Charlie Freeman's a little bit nervous right now because Boise State has come back. Northwestern only up by 2 with 12 minutes left, and of course I took Boise State in that game. So anyway, we'll see. My pick 5, Pete. We got Jim Miller in the bullpen waiting. So real quick, did I single anyone, Pete?
No.
You're right. I did not. I almost singled the 4 in the last leg. Almost. My $96 ticket, 1457 with 146 with 24910 with 210. With 4 and 9, I added the Bejarano first time starter. It's a guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know how good the 4 really is.
It's hard to single a horse that breaks like 5 lengths back every the first 2 races. It's hard to single a horse, but then you're pissed when they break like that again, and you're like, all right, I'm out of it already.
You know what's crazy, Pete? That horse could break that way again Saturday and win this time.
And win in this spot. Yeah.
This field is wow. there's my pick 5. I don't have too much to say. I'm chalking out in the second leg. I'm using Morello. I think Morello is interesting in the third leg. I'm just going to go 210 in the fourth leg, Pete, although I do understand why you're spreading there. I'm just choosing to go shorter there. So I'm spreading early. I could have singled the 1 in the second leg, but I liked those other 2 seem logical to me also. Anyway, there's my $96 ticket. Pete, before we let you go real quick, we're going to bring on our wonderful friend from Hawthorne Racecourse to get his opinion on Tapit Trice, because I know he wanted to talk about the horse real quick. So without further ado, let me do a few things here. I need to switch a banner. Of course, we got to switch to, there we go. Got to switch to Hawthorne, of course. And we got to bring on my Jim Miller banner, because let's bring him on, the one and only from Hawthorne Racecourse, Mr. Jim Miller. Jim, how you doing tonight?
Quite the entrance there, I'll tell you. Thanks, guys.
Working on it.
All right. I have my phone because I'm a Northwestern fan, so I'm following my phone.
No worries.
How about you guys? Do you guys both have a TV or phone or computer and iShot?
I got a TV right behind me, Jim.
Okay.
I got Jim. I don't know if you heard. I'm sorry to break it to you, but I have money on Boise State tonight.
I don't like you anymore. No,
I'm sorry. Well, listen, I just, it's a great story. I got nothing negative to say.
No.
The Big Ten is bad. I'm sorry. The Big Ten is bad this year, and I just thought it was weird they'd fly all the way out west and blah, blah, blah. I hope I'm wrong for people like you and fans of Northwestern. That one looks like it's going to go. Now they're up 4. It's going to go. It's either way.
Here's the thing. All right. Maryland was probably lucky to win today. Illinois was not very good. Iowa, not very good. And Northwestern's in a tough game. And I think Purdue probably loses in the second round. So it could be very tough for the Big Ten.
Right. Jim, I got one Big Ten team coming out of this weekend. I don't even know which one it is, but I think it's only going to be one, personally.
It could be.
Yeah, Jim, let's talk about Tapit Trice real quick. Let Pete go, and then we'll talk about Hawthorne.
Yeah.
Your quick opinions on Tapit Trice. We're all big fans.
Right.
He's very there's a big dichotomy right now. Some people love him. Some people, you listen to Twitter, says he should be 50-1 in the Derby, and these horses can't win the Derby. What say you about Tapit Trice as of this moment?
Well, when we were on the show last week, we were all talking about how we all loved the horse in that spot and thought the horse should be ultra impressive going into that race. I watched that race, and when I saw it, I thought probably almost until, say, mid-turn, 3/8 pole, even further, that the horse had absolutely no shot of winning. I'm like, the trip wasn't great. The trip was wide. I thought it was tough. It was, hey, congratulations, Michael. That's awesome. We'll talk about that in a minute, too.
All right.
I thought it was just a really daunting trip for a lightly raced horse, first time against Stakes Company. And then all of a sudden, like the 3/16 pole, it just looked like a completely different horse. It was just like rockets flying out of the horse as this thing took over and just continued to extend through the lane. I tend to wonder, okay, added distance shouldn't be a problem. A little bit more seasoning shouldn't be a problem by any means. And this is a horse that could just be continually getting good, but I was really impressed by the effort.
I was impressed. I just don't like the regression in the speed figure. Maybe I'm just being picky. But, you know, what's also, we talked about, Jim, his first time 2 turns, he took dirt. Distance is going to be that Churchill stretch. You want to talk about a horse that is going to love a long stretch? We're bring the Gold Cup back at Hawthorne, Jim, because this horse at Hawthorne would be whirl away. I mean, it'd be unbelievable. Real quick, this is important from Matt Miller, and we're going to talk about the contest. Matt Miller says viewers should know that our friends at Hawthorne made a point coming over to our table at the NHC, Jim, to check on our progress. Many others felt great to be supported. Thanks to the whole team. We're going to talk about that, Jim. Sure. So just hold off on your thought. We're going to talk about you and I about the NHC real quick. Anyway, Pete, we appreciate you being on. I guess Jim loves the horse. You like the horse, just to wrap it up, Pete, but maybe not quite as much as of now. Is that fair to say?
I just you want to see a little bit of improvement. I just don't want him to be too far back in the Derby and have to navigate because he doesn't look like that kind of horse. Before I sign off, Jim, I just wanted to say I'm glad I was on with you last week because I never would have played the pick 3 at Hawthorne, hit the pick 3 for 6-something because of this. So not on the show, unfortunately, but when they had all those scratches in the first leg, it looked like I guess it was the 4 horse maybe, just from a speed standpoint, just looked like the best horse speed-wise. Threw that one on the ticket. wound up hitting for 6+. So I thank you for that, for being on the show and
Well,
talking it through with me.
And I was thinking about you, especially when that horse won the last leg, because we were talking about that.
Yes, that was the one I mentioned right at the end. Yes,
and mentioned it right at the end, and the horse got the dream trip and didn't have to hustle away, but rated, and then just accelerated in the lane. You were the one I was thinking about for that, because I know going through it, all these horses we had talked about, and the return was tremendous too. I mean, for all the scratches and for a slop day and all that, the return was incredible for that.
Well, it almost never happens this way, where I was live to 4 horses and that was the highest payout. You almost never get the highest payout. You always wind up getting the low one. So when that 2 ran by, I was pretty pumped. So just thanks to the Hawthorns for, you and for the Hawthorne crew for giving me some good juju last Sunday.
You got it. Hey, man, keep watching. You know what? Everybody jumped in. It was insane today, and Howard and I will talk more about it. But the 12% takeout, we had a massive handle day. The racing on Thursdays definitely helped. And it was good having really big fields early in the meet. So we'll see more and more value, I'm sure, as the meet progresses.
Awesome. Pete, just to close out what you're saying, we sometimes people drop off, once we bring on Jim. Nothing to do with Jim or Hawthorne, just people like our major track sequences. Folks, don't go anywhere. Pete just cashed for 600 last week at Hawthorne. There are prices to be had. There's big fields at Hawthorne, so please stay tuned. Pete will let you go. Good luck to the rest of the weekend, Pete, with your betting and your NCAA stuff, and we'll talk to you later, Pete. Thanks.
All right, see you, everybody.
Bye-bye. All right, Jim, let's get into 2 quick things. We're going to talk about very quickly the late pick 4 on Sunday at Hawthorne. Yeah. Before we do that, I want to just piggyback on what Matt Miller said. Dakota Schultz was out there along with Emily in Vegas. I saw both of them. I was interviewed along with Matt. Man, big tip of the cap to everyone at Hawthorne for covering the NHC like a glove. And proudly enough, there were a lot of players from the NHC that competed in the Hawthorne tournament that were out there. And Jim, you won't believe this. I had to take the red eye home on Sunday night. Okay, so it's midnight. I'm sitting next to a guy I'd never met. He sees that I didn't have the Hawthorne hat. I had an NHC hat on. Sure. He's like, "Oh, you were in the NHC too." I said, "Great." He qualified. He finished 3rd in one of the Hawthorne events, and the only reason why he was there, Jim, because he was played in the Hawthorne contest. And I apologize, I can't remember his name. He was from Indiana. I do remember that. So, Jim, real quick first on kudos to everyone. If you want to mention the coverage at the NHC, and then please once again tell everyone out there about qualifying in the NHC or the BCBC through Hawthorne contests. You guys do the best of any track out there with your contest plate.
Well, and it's amazing because we have so many opportunities throughout the course of the year. And our biggest one is always on Thanksgiving weekend, where we have the 3-day contest. But we're 20+ seats that come through Hawthorne to head on to the NHC each and every year. Awesome. And we do our contest in a way that really suits the handicappers really well, because it's no entry fee. It's a live bankroll. It's keep what you make. It allows you to play the tracks and the circuits that you want to play. We're not going to stick you with just having to play Hawthorne races. If you're a person, let's say you like New York racing, you like Southern California, or you like just kind of dabbling around the country, you can do so. But with that ability, especially for multi-race wagers, and to play kind of like you'd handicap during the course of a day, I think that's what brings a lot of players into Hawthorne to play. And there's an appeal that you can have a good day, and even if you don't qualify, you're keeping that bankroll. So it's nice to have somewhere it's just not an entry fee and you go home with nothing. You keep what you make, and I think that's one of the most appealing things as well.
Well, word got out. We talked to. I met Christian Helmers for the first time. Was a very good contest player. We told him about Hawthorne. People need to. The only bummer is you do have to be on site, and so some people would have to travel. I have no idea if you guys have plans on changing that in the future. But whether you do or whether you don't, people need to travel. We've had people. Justin Dew travels in, and Dylan Donnelly. They travel in from California.
I like Justin.
Travel in for this event. Why wouldn't you want to?
Well, and the good thing is, even with that, even for those major events, we still do things like we're doing with our online contest that's just starting as well too, because you can get in that from anywhere. And that's one of the things where you play the online contest. It covers a couple of races each day. It's a win, play, show wager. Whoever accumulates the biggest bankroll in the end is going to get that NHC seat. So the NHC has been very good partners with us as well, and we want to be great partners in return.
Jim, let's talk about your extremely inexpensive pick 4. Now, look, some people, I got yelled at for only allowing a $50 or $100, whatever, being Uncle Cheapo was my original nickname by Pete and Paul. And that's fine. I can accept that because I ain't cheapo anymore, baby, after this last weekend with my cash at the NHC. But anyway, you got a $6 ticket. So you must have very strong opinions. We're just going to show the Equibase entries, if that's okay. And we can just very briefly go through the late pick forward. Starts in race 6. Again, this is Sunday, ladies and gentlemen. Hawthorne races Thursday and Sunday for right now. So this starts about 5:45 Eastern. It's great because it's after a lot of the major East Coast tracks and people can pay attention. The first leg is a $5,000 claimer, 5.5 furlongs. You're going 237 here, Jim.
Yeah, and here's the thing about it. Today was a very much a speed favoring track, Howard, at Hawthorne. Sunday will probably be exceptionally speed favoring because here in the Chicagoland area, when it gets cold out and the way the Fontana rail is set, it casts a shadow over the inside path. It's going to be about 30 degrees on Sunday. So if the sun comes out, it's going to thaw the rest of the racetrack more quickly than the inside path. If you're speed and you get to the inside, you're going to go. Also, winds come out of the west at Hawthorne, which is a headwind in the stretch. That's going to flatter the speed even more for that long stretch. So you're going to see throughout this ticket, it's a lot of speed horses. Play the ticket multiple times is the way that I would do it. But yeah, looking at this race, it's some like horses that race back on opening day. So you're coming out of that 9th race on March the 5th. That's the reason I used horse like Risky Boy in that spot. But really, the inside 2 horses, Agave Kid and DeFever, are the 2 horses to look at. Agave Kid is speed. It's E.T. Baird. It's a horse that should be able to get away in good order and be forwardly placed. But then you get DeFever, the 3 horse there. That horse faced so much tougher in that last out. The starter 6250 company was a very tough race. You look at the start 2 back, the last start of last fall's meet, it was right at this level. It was speed, took them all the way around. Those are the 2 speed. They could go 1-2 the whole way around. If they duke it out, Risky Boy tucks in right behind and picks them off in the lane.
Beautiful. I remember it's a fever. He's a former class horse, I believe, now in for 5. But these horses, these geldings, can run all day, literally and figuratively. The next race is. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I did it all. I didn't. My bad. That's okay. Race 7. It'll take me a second to get there. Sorry for the quick scrolling, everyone. There we go. You got an allowance. This is a nice purse of 31.5, 3-year-olds and up. This is state breds here. They're going 5.5. You're going with number 1 Wildwood Dreamer for Scott Becker and Chris Amy, which is one hell of a combination at in the Chicago area. And then you got Ravelli and E.T. Baird. I'd say those are 2 real nice combinations and connections there.
And the interesting thing about it is when I was laying the line for this race, there was nobody that was going to be a heavy favorite because everybody's pretty similar on paper. So you kind of see how that line is pretty similar as well. But here's the thing. Chris Amy won 4 today. He's riding very well, riding confidently. It's a veteran jock that knows how to ride the track in weather conditions. Same for E.T. Baird. And again, 2 horses with speed. Wildwood Dreamer, that was a good effort defeating Open Maiden Company in that final start of the fall season. Right on Richie, ran a couple of stakes races and didn't run great at Hawthorne, but this is a horse that Ravelli thought enough of to bring down to Gulfstream Park for the winter, get a couple of starts into it before coming back. I think these 2 run 1-2 the whole way around. I think Wildwood Dreamer probably goes followed by Right on Richie, but it could be vice versa. But I think they take him the whole way around in the 7th.
If you folks are not paying attention, Jim Miller, who is a guru, and he's everything about Hawthorne, about speed playing with the Fontana rail and the wind. And the wind's a factor I've talked about a lot at Hawthorne and Arlington back in the day. It absolutely can make a difference. Let's go to race 8. Another nice pick 4 here. Another allowance, 31.5. This is open company. They're going 2 turns, which I apologize for not knowing how many 2-turn races you guys have run.
A decent amount, actually, surprisingly. Yeah.
You have. Okay. So this is 3-year-olds and up. It is a nice big field of 9 with the morning line favorite number 8, I believe. Yes, Highbrow for Ravelli and Mojica. You are going to use that horse, but you're also going to use an Aya bred, Mr. Solo, for Tracy and Julio Felix.
Yeah, and Tanner Tracy had a victory today in the finale, and it was a horse that made the top and took him the whole way around. Here's the thing. Everybody's going to bet Highbrow because the horse has run 6 times at Hawthorne, and all 6 times has been first or second. But you look at those races, they were against claiming company and sometimes even lower level condition claiming company. Mr. Solo has some back class. Yes, it's an Iowa bred. This is a horse that's taken on some Iowa bred stakes company in the past. But this is a horse that you look throughout the course of its career, the best running style is putting him on the lead. And in this field, there is not a whole lot of pace. Mr. Solo is a horse that I think can go out there, can make the top. Again, a veteran rider and Felix in the saddle. I think he backs things down, and I do think he'll be prominent the entire way. And a 10-1 in the morning line, and you might get that because they're going to bet Papa's Lucky 7. But I think Mr. Solo should get a very good trip in here.
10-1 would definitely spice up that pick 4 for sure. So take a look at the number 5, Mr. Solo. Don't sleep on those Iowa breds. There's a horse running at Oaklawn Saturday called Ain't Life Grand, who won the Iowa Derby that I had at 12-1. Is a real nice horse. So don't knock the Iowa breds. That's for sure. The last race, which will be about 7:05 Eastern Standard Time. You're not messing around. You're actually seeing a New York bred. Yep. 7-2 morning line. The number 1 Madly for there's Trice again, and a real nice young jockey who's up and coming in Centeno. Hopefully to close out, which would be a very profitable, inexpensive pick 4 for you and people that follow you.
Yeah, if you hear my dogs in the background, I apologize. They're having some fun.
They're so excited about your single at the end here in the main claim you 62.5, Jim.
I'm excited too. Here's the thing. Centeno won at a 24% clip, and people barely even knew anything about him throughout the course of last year. He's starting to pick up some of those better mounts. This is not a great bunch by any means. Those horses that have raced at Hawthorne haven't really shown anything. This is a horse that, although, yeah, they were racing out there in tracks that you don't necessarily know. You're looking at races out in Finger Lakes, but this is a horse that faced much tougher company. This is maiden 62.50. There's not a whole lot to beat here. The horse is working well. The morning drills put this horse in contention to win the race. They're going to go. They're going to wing it from the inside. There's no pace in the race. I think this is a horse that can take him the whole way around.
When Matt Miller has an opinion, I listen. He has an opinion here for this ticket. He loves the ticket, despite the last week a crapshoot, at least in Matt's opinion. I'd be prepared to bet on the side if there's a second horse that takes money besides the one. So maybe Matt Miller and other people are alive to the late pick 4. You might want to hedge depending on your tickets. Never a bad idea. It's hard to hedge on too many horses, but if there's only one other horse you like, Jim, you could play a double or a win bet or whatever, right?
Yeah, and the thing is, you have to look and see how the track's going to play. And the beauty of this ticket is you're going to have the first 5 races on the card to just kind of watch. But again, it was a speed favoring strip today. It's raining right now. It's supposed to rain tomorrow. The track will have a little bit of moisture in it. And you have to take that into regards as well, because if the sun comes out, again, outside of the rail, it will start to thaw. The inside will never thaw at any means. So again, inside's going to be good. Speed's going to be good. And just have to see kind of how things unfold. But I think this is a ticket. I will probably take this ticket and play it 5 times and then go from there and try to cash.
I love it. I wish you a lot of luck, Jim. I live Matt luck. Anyone who's playing Hawthorne, once again, thanks to Dakota, Emily, the whole crew who followed us out of the NHC and did a great job. Jim, great job as always. The dogs are excited because Northwestern, I think, is up 6.
Yes.
What is it? It's a 4-point game with 6 minutes left. Perfect time to get us off the show here, Jim, and watch. Good luck to your Wildcats. Good luck to everyone playing Hawthorne this weekend. We'll just wrap up the show right here for my good friend Jim Miller right over there, and yours truly, Howard Kravitz, episode 238 of the HHH Racing Podcast. Good luck with your bets at Oaklawn, Hawthorne, and the NCAA tournament. Take care, everyone. Have a great night. Bye-bye.
If you have not followed his Triple H Horse Racing Podcast, you're missing out. It's one of the best podcasts in the country.